Good afternoon, good evening. This is Peter J. Redding. And happy holidays to everybody. It's a couple of days before Christmas for Christians that celebrate Christmas around the world. And for those of you that celebrate some other way, in some other fashion, for some other spiritual tradition, happy holidays to you and happy holy days to you. I always think about what I'm going to talk about ahead of time, and sometimes things come through and sometimes they don't. And so I want to welcome you to Tuesdays with Peter. The theme, or at least the concept of a theme that came through for me within the last couple of days is the idea of giving and receiving. I was thinking about earlier days, I'd go out and buy Christmas presents for my family and, feel very generous. And I generally felt that I was being generous. But as time went on, there was a sense of giving. I have more control over that. And it's not sinister. I'm not suggesting that. It's just, what's the energy? What's the attitude that's going into the giving piece? And it was giving of things more than giving of self. So I've been reflecting on that the last couple of days in terms of my journey with the two ends of that, the giving and the receiving. And so an analogy that I always use in my coach training program is that it's like a conduit, right? Like a tube. And if the tube is this big, then, and it's presumably open on both sides, then I have the capacity to give out to the same degree as I have the capacity to receive in. That makes sense? Now, if I close off one end of the tube, the conduit, okay, so I'm going to clamp down on, let's say, this side. I'm going to open this side up. And that is my giving side. So I give everything that I have that's stored up in the tube, the conduit. There comes a point in time that I can't give anymore. It's just, I'm empty. I'm exhausted. I am spent. Everything that I had reserves within me are gone because I've given, and then I got nothing left to give. Conversely, if I close the giving side off and I just open up to receive, and I can open up to receive, so then what is available will come in. But it's blocked because there's no flow through. What happens then if in nature is that, let's say that the water comes into a swampy area. There's no place for the water to go because, again, that's closed. And it just sits there. And it stagnates. Because there's no freshness, there's no vitality, there's no energy that's going on there. There's just a stagnation of what got in is there, and there's no movement, so it stays there. So there's a sense of stagnation. Both of those, from a human perspective of giving and receiving, is a sense of not ideal. Okay, yeah, this is not ideal. So what I'm suggesting is that two things. Number one is I open up both sides. My capacity to receive then will equilibrate to my capacity to give. That much that I have open, I will be able to have that flow through me and go through and be sent out. The second thing is that depending upon the size of my conduit, my pipe, my flow through, the capacity to flow through. Again, maybe it's this big. I have enough safety. I have enough wherewithal. I have enough sense of control, perhaps, to open up this big, so things flow in, and I freely. My propensity is to give. Okay, so I know a lot of my colleagues in coaching and in previous professions of teaching, in a profession of healthcare. We are human beings that love to give, love to take care of. Okay, sometimes in a sub-functional way, but nevertheless, we have a propensity. It seems like a default of wanting to give. Yeah. Now, at a certain point in time in my life, back a couple of decades ago, I figured out that if I didn't open up to receive more, then that would limit my capacity to give more. So for me, it is a Mobius. A Mobius is like an infinity sign that's on its side, lazy, but it's like there's a twist, quite literally. If you were to cut the ribbon, if you will, turn one side 180 degrees, what happens to that infinity sign is that the outer becomes the inner becomes the outer, and it flows infinitely. So my capacity to give is conditional to my capacity to receive. That makes sense. I hope that's landing right. Now, the other component that I've been thinking about over the last few days in preparation for maybe making this the topic for today is which one do I feel like I have better control over? This concept of control. Previous in life, when I examined this, my capacity to give was the thing that I had control over. I could give a big gift, I could give a little gift, I could buy an expensive gift, I could buy an inexpensive gift, I could not give a gift at all. All of those kinds of things were under my control. Now, younger years, my sense of all of that was it's a privilege to give. I have abundance, and I feel abundant, and I want to share that sense of abundance with people that I love. So not done out of any kind of a malice or control or anything like that, but just someone at some point in time said, so you're in control of your giving. What do you mean I'm in control of my giving? Yeah, you have a control of your giving. But do you have a control of your receiving? The answer ultimately for me there is yes. It's just, what am I open to receive? So we talk a lot about in coaching, opening up to receive the energy of the client, opening up to receive clients, opening up to receive ideas, receive partnering, receive money, receive anything that is in the form of any kind of an energy source or physical force that is ultimately energy. Am I open up to receive that? Again, not judging it, good or bad, but weighing it has my capacity to give grown? So I believe it has in my case, and I do it lovingly, willingly, excitedly, etc. Right? Now, looking on the other side of that, has my capacity to receive kept up with my capacity to give? I'm not sure, and that's what I'm currently exploring right now in my life. There are people that said, yeah, I'd like to volunteer, I'd like to work with you, I'd like to support your work in getting, the core selfie, as most of you know that have heard these before. It's kind of like why I'm on the planet, support people to know who they really are. And have I opened up fully and completely to receive all of that? I'm not sure that I have. I'm not sure that I have. And it might come down to that sense of, geez, will I lose control of my life? Like lose control of my free time? Will I be needing to manage or, continually in contact with the people, loving, gorgeous, awesome people that have volunteered to do that? Maybe there's a piece of that. So anyhow, that's just a topic. If you want to get into that, you're welcome to. I do celebrate the season. There's a huge sense for me of grace. There's a great sense of taking stock at the end of the year of just how incredibly fortunate, blessed, abundant that I am blessed with in so many ways, in so many different ways. So I give thanks to my God for that. I do. I give thanks to the universe, to spirit, for me to be able to be here, period. And second of all, to do it with sound body and sound mind and sound spirit. So I honor all of you for being here. Those of you that are in the Zoom room with me live right now, or those that are live on YouTube, like 20 seconds later. I encourage you to put your thoughts into the chat box. Any particular topic that's top of mind for you, it's totally open, and we can kind of explore that if you'd like a little bit. Share that a little bit. And the topic I just introduced was the concept of the energy of giving and receiving, both giving and receiving, and being open to both sides of that. So, who's here and what's on your mind? You can type it into the chat box in YouTube or in Zoom, either one. And the awesome, amazing Cello will facilitate that to get it into my chat box so I can actually see it live here. I see Rajan has joined us, Alana's joined us, Charles has joined us, Arshna has joined us, perhaps others that I'm not seeing on the screen right now, but welcome, 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 welcome. Holiday seasons to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Very welcome.
Hi, Peter.
Hi, Alana. How are you, awesome coach?
I'm well, thank you. I hope you are also. So as you were just talking, something that sparked my attention was just your transparency and your self-inquiry around your receiving and giving as well. And it just kind of sparked for me, I would say, my own noticing of my receiving lately. I've had a lot of wonderful things come in. I suppose I've just been reflecting on my response to it. Sometimes it feels like, oh my gosh, like, is this real? Or this feels like so much at once. And so I found it pretty interesting to sit with what's coming up for me. What are some maybe beliefs I have around one thing or the other. And so it's been helpful for me to just, as I move forward, be more aware of my receptivity, I like to say, or Abraham Hicks has this phrase, receiving mode. And so I think about, am I in the receiving mode, and how does that feel for me? So just a reflection, what your thoughts sparked for me.
Thank you. Yeah. I think the human system is, there's like, how do I say? We get accustomed to it. We get used to a certain level of blank, a certain level of receiving, a certain level of food, a certain level of hydration, a certain level of accolades, a certain level of whatever that, right? And so when there is a shift or change of, whew, the mother load just came in, right? It's like, the balloon is this, remember those long skinny balloons, right? You'd blow up and it'd like a big worm or a big, little,
Yeah.
an air tube basically. But they equilibrate. In other words, when you first start off, the end of it is really tight because the rubber is really tight, and then you blow into it and it's like a little bulbous thing. But after a while, then it equilibrates and the whole thing kind of equals, right? So it's the same diameter. I think the same thing is true with us humans. At least I'll speak in my statements. I experience that. So that when I get an influx, a big influx of accolades or money or opportunities or whatever, it's like, whew, the system's not ready for that level of receiving. So there's a period of time and a grace of how willing am I to open up to receive more.
Yeah.
And then it kind of expands and it's like, oh, okay, so I can handle that and not get a big head, or not, like my mom used to say, my head's not going to explode. so it's not necessarily instantaneous. It's still not instantaneous. So, yeah.
Thank you.
So my focus comes back to the attitude of that in terms of it's okay. I can handle this, and I can handle it with grace. I can handle it with honor. I can handle it without getting hubris. Because the countermeasure to that is fear. Oh, can I handle this? I better be careful. I better handle this with finesse. I want to still look cool. Or whatever.
Yeah. I find it interesting. I can't remember who it was, but it said once, as kind of opportunities flow in, there's that thought that can happen, at least for me, of like, can I do this, as you just said? And then start to flip that to, do I want to do this? Take out that question of even my capability of like, is this just something I'm interested and excited about? And so that's helpful too, when I remember to reframe the question or reframe in that way.
Yeah, and again, that just comes back to plain old common sense consciousness. Is and trust. I think for me is the other word that comes. Can I trust this? Are they trying to get something from me? There's a kind of the dark side, the underside. What do they want from me? If I say yes to this, what are you really after?
Yeah.
And again, just there's so much that is dictated because of my attitude. Do I have an attitude of gratitude? Do I have an attitude of someone's trying to take advantage of me? That will color what's coming in. And again, try to be as clean about all of that and say, they just love me. They just want to support me. Thank you. I open up to receive that. I have the capacity to receive that, and that will replenish my heart, my soul, my body, my willingness to even give more on the other side of it. So those are some of the things that flow through. And I think it's an amazingly conscious thing that I think, well, I won't say about most people. Most of my life, I didn't.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being so conscious. Any other thoughts around giving, receiving? Anything else around the holidays? What are some of the thoughts that come through your minds at this point in time in the calendar, the season, the year?
I wanted to know, when we talk about consciousness, what role does subconscious play, and what is in a coach's hand to be able to access that or connect with that, or should it be or should it not be? That is also a question.
The heavy duties coming in now. Okay, not just the consciousness, but the subconsciousness. And how do I work with that? How do I recognize that? Do I even recognize that if it's truly at the subconscious level? Here's my experience with all of that, is that the subconscious becomes more conscious as I become more conscious, and allow that to be part of my life, and be okay with it. Befriend it is the word that comes through, as opposed to, oh, these are the deep dark secrets of Peter's past that are, creeping up and going to smack me upside the head type of attitude. But it tends, for me at least, to say, okay, so, and maybe that still comes up. I kind of categorize that is that old programming? Is that really the truth of who Peter Redding really is at this point in time in life? With this point of consciousness that I've been able to obtain for myself. And so I have less fear about the subconscious, number one. So it's not the boogeyman that's, coming to attack me or take me down. I've kind of let go of that one. At least on the conscious level. As it relates to coaching, it's I'm not perfect. I'm not a perfect clean slate as much as I would like to be. That I aspire to be for and with my client. So I clean my space up as best I can by doing my practices, doing my prayers, my meditations, my emptying myself of, the way I categorize or say it to my students is, I try to take all of the Peter Redding strategies of life and set them aside when I'm with my client. And so just a second, I've got one technical thing I've got to do here. Sorry. Okay, we've got some people being admitted, and I've got to get Cello back into. Okay, sorry about that. My co-host got lost in the shuffle here. So I clean myself up as best I can as a coach ahead of time, so that I can be there 100% or as close to 100%, non-judgmental, non-directive, non-authoritative, with and for my client and my client's agenda. And that continues to take practice on my part, and all the master coaches that I know. We continue to work on ourselves as we work on our craft. The technicalities of asking better questions, listening deeper, listening for patterns, listening for nuance, challenging when we believe that would be in service to the client and the client's agenda, and all of that business. Again, I'm using the word cleaner just as my acronym for, not acronym, but my methodology of how can I be the best sounding board? How can I be the best safe space for my client to feel safe enough to talk about anything and everything that might come up in their life that's important to them today. I don't typically get into subconscious work before the coaching session, but I think as you crafted that question, Rajan, is the idea of, do I do my meditation? Do I do my prayer? Do I do my cleansing? Do I have good hydration? Have I gotten a good night's sleep? Have I taken care of Peter Redding's issues the day before, the week before with my coach? All those kinds of things, to stay as open, as present, as compassionate, as loving as I want to show up and hold what I call a sacred space for my client. That is that's a contract underneath the contract. Yeah, there's the details of the contract, you're gonna show up on certain days and for a certain number of hours and you're gonna pay me this, that, and the other. But underneath all of that is what I'm really contracting with my client is I will hold sacred space for you and the agenda that you bring to our coaching session, period. And that sacred space is a space for you to do your work that you're ready to do. That's my belief in modern day professional coaching. If it's about how do I make more stuff, you know, at work, or how do I get my employees to be more productive? Okay, that's your prerogative. You set the agenda. If it's the things that are for the inner being, you know, how can I become more conscious? How can I become more forgiving? How can I become more confident in my relationship with my family, which is a bit strained now because of whatever reasons they state? Then that's what they work on. And I don't judge, I don't direct, I'm not the authority in their life. The kinds of things that I share in this forum, in this venue, I don't share in my coaching as a coach. It's not a place for that. It's the client's agenda, it's a client's agenda. No, by the way, it's a client's agenda, not Peter's. So I don't know if that kind of sheds any light in terms of how I show up as a coach and how the subconscious might play into that or not play into that. Rajan, I'm interested in your thoughts reflected back in terms of, did any of that make sense, first of all, or even address your initial question?
It does. It has bothered me because some people say that very often what the client is saying, if there are some unproductive loops in the client's minds, even with her best efforts, unless one is able to tap into those, it becomes difficult to help her get out of it. I don't know. I mean, this is one thought that some people say, but unless somebody has the relevant expertise and knowledge, I wonder what a coach can do in that.
But I can address that one. Let me, there's two different scenarios here that come to mind with that. What can a coach do with somebody that's in a do loop that's not particularly productive and they're trying to get out of it? Is kind of what I'm hearing your question to be. My answer to that is don't get hooked by it. And if I do get hooked by it, in other words, they're really angry about something and anger triggers me because I have unresolved issues around anger, you know, that has completely unrelated to what the client's going through. But nevertheless, the energy of anger is like, ooh, right? Then I can't be holding a sacred space. I've just left a sacred space because I have gotten triggered by something that the client said. So that's one scenario. And that's the one for that I always say to my students is have a list next to your client file that you're making notes in that says my stuff. In fact, you might even say my unresolved stuff. And put a note over there, anger, okay, trigger, it's coming up again. And that's work that I need to do personally after the coaching session. Okay, so then I can set that aside, hopefully, come back to the client. What a coach can do for the client is hold a space that's safe enough for them to be unsettled around that issue that they just brought up. So what do you want to do with this? I don't know what they want to do with it. I don't know if they're ready to go into it, not ready to go into it. They've been dealing with this for the last 5 years. You know, I'm not talking about clinical issues now here, but it's something that keeps rearing its ugly head, if you will, as a leader, as a parent, as a human being. And I create a sacred enough space for them to explore that. I've shared this example a couple times in our sharings over the last year, but I had a client that had an issue in her life that she just was afraid to get into. She was just deathly afraid of even talking about it. And so I it was her to talk about or not talk about. I left it the way, she wanted to deal with it or not deal with it. And one day I said to her, I said, okay, so if you'd like, if it would support you, you can talk about this, explore it, and you don't have to do anything with it or about it, if that would support you. And she said, oh, okay, I like to kind of poke my head into the room and see what comes up or what's behind the Wizard of Oz screen, because I've been afraid to poke my head into that. All right. So she talked about it. And she halted a few times. I said, it's okay. You can keep exploring if it serves you. And if you're ready to, to leave the room, the proverbial room, then that's okay too. It's whatever best serves you. And she kept on doing that. And so there was a level of safety that I was able to bring to her to explore. Now, there are other cases where those clients going to say, no, this is way too sensitive an area for me. I'm not ready to deal with it. Okay, so what else would you like to talk about? I have no, I have no Velcro fingers is what I call it. No, it's time for you to deal with this. That's not appropriate for me as a coach. I don't know if it's appropriate for them to deal with it right now.
Right.
And so there's again, sacred space is the best way I can describe this. This will all come out when it needs to, when you're ready. And if it's not time, then I'm not here to force you. I can say that it's a safe space, but if it's not for you, then what else would you like to talk about today? It's your agenda. And that's more precious than gold and diamonds. My experience with my clients is that they don't have anybody else or very few people in their entire life, and then over their entire lifetime, that has allowed them to talk about something or not talk about something. Their boss says, no, we will talk about this now and we will get this resolved. Then they talk to their wife and she says the same thing. They talk with their in-laws and yeah, here, let me tell you what to do here, because you're not doing life right according to us. So we have all kinds of outside external forces on being a human being and being in an ecosystem of all the ecosystems that I'm part of, that tell me or shed light on, Peter, as a male Caucasian American elder, here's how you are supposed to be. Here's what you're supposed to be doing. Here's what all of your colleagues that graduated from university with you 50 years ago are doing now. Okay, so then there's a expectation of, okay, so that's who I'm supposed to be, but I'm not. Well, in some cases I am, but a lot of cases I'm not. So this takes a lot of self-reflection, self-mastery, all the things that we talk about here in coaching mastery, learning mastery, self-mastery. Who am I? And am I being true to that? And am I being true to who I know myself to be or not, or to what extent? And that's what I provide as a professional coach to my clients, is a space for them to explore, a place for them to be safe. And my clients have, they've talked about menopause, they've talked about having affairs, they've talked about health issues, they've talked about grieving and loss of loved ones, they've talked about challenges that they're being undermined at work. Anything and everything that I can think of has been talked about by at least one of my clients over the last 25 years. And to the best of my ability, I leave my ideas, my judgments, here's how you can handle this. Advice giving is like nano. Holding sacred space is it's your life. What would you like? How would you like to live it? What choices do you have in front of you? It doesn't mean I don't challenge them sometimes when I think that supports their agenda, but it's certainly not coming from a place of judgment from me. one lady one time said, okay, so this is what I want to do. And, but I'm really busy right now. So I said, okay, so it sounds like you're going to be busy for the next 5 years. So it's okay to not do anything with this for 5 years. And it was like, whoa, no, that's not what I said. I said, okay, well, so what do you want to do? So there's that, but again, clean as possible, because I don't have an agenda that she starts doing this in the next 6 months or tomorrow or by the end of the week. It's not my life. And from an ex-flaming codependent, that's saying a lot, by the way. This is not where I was 25 years ago when I first started coaching. God had put me on a planet to make sure that everybody was living their life properly. That's, I mean, I couldn't have articulated that 25 years ago inside that codependency. But that's really what I literally, I direct traffic. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay. Time for you to move. Yeah. Okay. Now you go. All right. Okay. So now you did. Whew, that was exhausting. Literally. I got more energy now than I did when I was 37. I've said that 1,000 times. I'll keep saying it because I'm not taking care of everybody. It's so liberating.
Jen has written something in our chat.
Okay, yeah, so he's
Hi,
along.
Peter.
Jen,
Good morning.
hi, Jen, good to see you.
Yeah, I had one of these incredibly frustrating onboarding conversations with someone that I know well and that I care about, and I would really have loved to have had a powerful coaching conversation with. And I'm not sure about his perception, because sometimes I feel it wasn't good, and then later on the person's like, that was really great, but I did not feel good. Like I felt like that the needle didn't move, and in essence, he kept saying he couldn't make a decision. He always struggled making a decision, and I said, well, what are the paths that you have considered? What are the tools that you've considered for helping yourself make decisions and giving yourself insight? And he was like, I don't know. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And after like 5 minutes of I don't knows, I was like, have you considered a pros and cons list? Which I realized is stepping into the mentoring zone, but I was like, I gotta go there. So, and then he was like, I hate pros and cons list. I said, tell me why. And so, he said, because he would make a list and there'd be 19 pros and 3 cons, and all he can see is the cons. So then I said, have you done a weighted list where you assign each pro and each con with a numeric value out of 10? And then you add these up. And he was like, no, I would do that. I was like, great. Have you done a weighted joy list? Because you're looking at things very rationally, and then you're struggling with the emotion of it all. So let's look at the joy. And I felt like when someone comes and they say they want to work on something nebulous, like their confidence, and you have like 30 to 45 minutes to work on someone's confidence, and this has been a lifelong issue, like a part of me immediately goes, well, I'm getting nowhere with this, because this is something they've been struggling with for their whole life. How do you try and give them like that support and clarity in that time? Like, it's so hard.
I hear that it's hard for you right now. I do.
Yes, coach.
Yeah, and that's part of the agenda that has to be dropped. That they get something in the next 45 minutes, that they have this huge eureka, aha moment, or whatever it is that is conjured up in your brain that they're paying you for, or they want to get from you as their coach. And it keeps coming back to my mantra of make the client do the work. You're pulling out this tool. What about this weightedness? And what about the joy weightedness? And what about pros and cons? And so you're racking your brain in terms of how to support him. When as your coaching mastery continues, it will become more of, okay, I hear that this is a struggle for you. So what would you like to talk about in this session? I'd like to have more confidence. So I can recognize it, and I can even empathize with it and have compassion for a fellow human being that's struggling with blank. I'm struggling with relationships. I'm struggling with career. I'm struggling with my sexuality. I'm struggling with confidence levels, what have you. And I am happy and have had. I said, okay, so if you don't want to talk about that, what do you want to talk about? I don't know. Oh, okay. I'll tell you what. Why don't we end the session today, and next week when we get back together again, maybe you'll figure out what you want to talk about.
Have you seriously done that?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Now,
Yeah,
95%.
but this was an initial session, so it's really just my well, actually nobody's time is wasted because we both see how the other person shows up. So it's not a waste. But I love that. So what 90, please continue. 95% of the time, what happens?
95% of the time, the person says, whoa, no, I'd like to get into this a little bit. Oh, okay. So what part of this would you like to get into? Make the client do the work. Now you've heard me, I know you've heard this, Jen, probably 100 times already, is, I know I forgot it, was too much of a lead-in. Make the client do the work, and don't have an agenda for the client because you are wanting to support them.
All right, I'm gonna write that down.
So yeah, 95% of the time,
how do you not do that? That sounds like a crazy thought. Like, I am here to support them and I want them to have a powerful conversation that creates like shift and awareness and growth in their life. So how can I not want that? Like, what's the mantra in my head?
The mantra in my head is I am here to hold space for you. I'm not here to answer your questions.
And if I were a client, I would say, and why am I paying for that?
Because I'm the most precious space you can do your work in.
Okay. I'm here to hold space for you so you can do your work, right?
You can do your deepest, darkest, if it's darkest, most important work that you have not been able to do up until this point in time in your life. There are people that are 45, 55, 65 years old that don't know who they are. They have been accustomed to being told what to do and how to do it for their entire lifetime. They are not used to thinking for themselves, going to that deep inner place. Coaching is much more about personal development than it is about getting stuff done. It does get stuff done. It's part of it. But it's the main focus continues to be, how can this human being become a better human being because of their experience of coaching? And it's because I make the client do their work. I can't do that for them, period. And I have huge compassion for that too, by the way. This is not cavalier of, okay, so if you're not ready to work, then goodbye. That's not it. I have a huge compassion for my client to be a better human being because of my relationship with them as their coach. If you need reinforcement in this, go back and read the ICF Code of Ethics. Go back and review the core competencies. There's nowhere in either one of those that says, yeah, please give the client advice when they need it. Nowhere. In fact, we distinguish ourselves in terms of, we are not a consultant. We are not a therapist. We are not a trainer. We are not a mentor to that individual's life. Now, most people that call themselves a coach that haven't been trained will continue to mentor, will continue to teach, will continue to be the authority, will continue to be whatever they've been for the last 20 years. But to understand sacred space and to understand that it's the client's agenda that they are here to work on in your presence, in the safety of your presence, as opposed to your judgment of you're not moving fast enough here, buddy. Even if you don't say that, you will be communicating that energetically. So Jen, what are you hearing out of all that? Or what are you being reminded out of all of that?
Yeah, that I'm bringing too many of my own issues into the sessions, and like my wanting to help is not helping the client's best interest. I mean, yeah, I continue to work on that.
Yeah.
And then I'm bringing my frustrations in. It's just, it's so hard, especially when I keep wanting to have like powerful conversations so that the person's like, oh my God, I need coaching in my life. Right. And if they get off the phone and they're like, they're not going to think they need coaching in their life. So it's like, it's a push and pull, but I hear you in that I'm here to hold space for them so that they can do their deepest, most important work.
And it's courageous work. Not everybody's ready for a professional coach, frankly.
Yeah.
Some of them want to go to a workshop over the weekend and heal their life, you know, with all of their relationships and all of their employees and all of that. And they may get some tips and tricks out of it, you know, like be friendly, say good morning when you get into the office, or you're on a Zoom call with them before you start ranting and raving about what they didn't do. All good stuff. But it does very little for their inner soul, their inner constitution, their inner way of being. For those that are ready to do the work, they will seek a coach that will hold a space for them to be able to do that. And it's incredibly valuable. Well,
ironically, like the one client that I've retained basically since I ended the part 1 with you, she admitted after the first 3 months that she started as like kind of like a pity for Jen, like, all right, like I'll support you.
yeah.
But it's been so tremendously valuable. She pays me 1.5 times more. And she has committed to 6 more months. We have another 3 months. And I honestly, I think her life is like, I don't want to say wildly better because it's not. But what has become clear is what she wants and what she has achieved. And I think part of what we do that is so valuable is shining a spotlight on the awesomeness that they are doing. So because a lot of the times they're like, oh, I've done nothing. But when someone says, well, hang on a sec, you like got your stuff up at the pottery show, you bought a new house, you rented your old house, you have passive income. You know, you've rejigged your finances, you've aligned your finances, you got engaged, you've planned a wedding. Like, I think that's not nothing for 5 months.
That's pretty good. Yeah. In 5 months.
Yeah. They go, oh, right. It's almost like the spotlight on their inner self, to your point. But you have to get someone who's willing to step in and do the work and pay for it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And so, I can give you advice in this form. I don't give you advice as a coach, but as advice in this form is find the clients that are ready to do the work.
Yeah. Okay. Where are they? Second left, straight ahead?
They're probably right in front of you. You're probably tripping on them when you go out for lunch. Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Just to the point that you said to her is, okay, so there's so many things she doesn't giving herself credit for all the things that she has done. She's only focusing on what she's not done or unfinished. All right. Again, what you focus on expands. You've heard that one once or twice.
Yeah.
So focus on the 3 billion people that could use the support of a very conscious, compassionate coach. And then narrow it down to the ones you can actually speak to because of your language.
Yeah, I'm working on it. I'll
I
figure it out.
know, I know. Great.
I believe I will be IFC certified by the end of March.
Amen. Hallelujah.
And we're starting section 3, so I get more you time.
That's right. Looking forward
Awesome.
to that.
Yes, I really appreciate you helping me today. Thank you. I actually, believe it or not, have a coaching call in 10 minutes, so I'm gonna go like chill, but and do my grounding exercise per your initial conversation. But thank you, and I look forward to seeing you in a week.
Good work, Jen. Happy holidays to you.
Oh, thank you, Peter. Happy holidays, and happy holidays to everyone on the call.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Woo. Fantastic. Who else have we got? What's on your mind?
Peter,
Yes.
we have one from YouTube from Mike Lapalucho, I believe. Resisting or accepting happiness throughout the holidays by your self-reflection.
Oh, okay. I see it here. Resisting or accepting happiness throughout the holidays by self-reflection. I don't know if that's a question mark or if that's a statement, because I believe it in both. But I would say to Mike, yeah, I am in control of whether I receive something or not receive something, good or bad. And sometimes in earlier life, I might push back on something that is an acknowledgement for me, something that's good, because I didn't trust them or I didn't trust what was it connected to it. You know, I was always looking like, okay, so there's something lurking. He wants something from me, or she wants something from me. And that's all an inside thing. You know, there's if I accept it at face value and the person acknowledges me, I thank you. I received that. Thank you. I received that. And that was a practice that I was not trained to do as growing up. In fact, it was just the opposite of that. It's like, oh, no, it's no big deal. All right. There was a sense of pushing it, literally pushing it back on that person. So the transmission from sender to receiver was broken because on my side, I didn't trust it. In the holiday seasons, one thing that can occur for a lot of people is getting back with, you know, family of origin, either physically or virtually. And so all the old dynamics, or almost all of the old dynamics, my experience earlier in life was, you know, okay, so mom brought her stuff, you know, the good, the bad, the ugly. My dad brought his stuff, the good, the bad, the ugly. My siblings brought what was, you know, the good, the bad, the ugly. And it was, you know, I reverted back to being 15 years old, even though I was 35. Okay. And maybe some of those things I had outgrown, and maybe some of those things I had not outgrown, but it was in my face and I resented it. But again, I think that's part of the journey of life and learning and consciousness of what am I complete with, and I can let go of, even regrets, even disappointments, even things that were not particularly happy times for me. And how do I get on with the rest of my life? And replace those things with a sense of compassion of they did the best they knew how. Particularly talking about parenting now, or teachers, or elder brothers, or you know, the aunts and uncles, or whatever, you know, whatever that community would look like growing up for each of you. My God, they did a great job of raising me, of influencing me, of bringing, you know, different parts of concepts to me. Do they continue to serve me? Some of them don't, and I've let go of those. And a lot of them still do to this day support me. the sense of duty, the sense of integrity that I got from my mom and dad. The sense of sacrificing that I also got, particularly from my mom, doesn't serve me, and hasn't for 30 years. So I let go of that one. I don't need to sacrifice to honor my mom. And so that's one of the things that Rajan was talking about earlier in terms of that was at a subconscious level when I was 35. I'm conscious of that. No. But I am now, or I was 30 years ago. And I said, yeah, I don't need to sacrifice. That is not a healthy thing for me. I can be compassionate, I can be giving, but I don't have to sacrifice. And I don't have to direct traffic in downtown Tokyo. And several of you will know the reference to that, and I'm not going to get into it now, but there's a sense of, what do I hold on to? And what do I consciously let go of? And so one of the key questions that I always ask myself, great question in coaching. So does this continue to serve you in your life now, Peter? Or Rajan, or Jen, or Arshna, or whoever's on the call right now, right? Or Mike. If it continues to serve me, super. Embrace it, love it. Thank the origin of that, or who contributed to that. And if it doesn't, consciously let it go. Replace it with love and compassion for that human being that was doing the very best that they knew how, because of their upbringing, because of what they had to go through in a way of a war, in the way of being a hostage, in the way of depression years, in the way of World War II in my parents' case, or deep droughts in the Midwest. My mom is from South Dakota. My dad was there for a number of years in the Midwest. And during the 30s, they had the Dust Bowl. Cows died, dropped over from not having anything to eat. That leaves a mark on a human being, whatever their experience was. And so being frugal, my mother took that to the extreme. And I learned from that. There's a part of that that's beautiful. There's a part of that that is also not particularly serving me now in terms of trying to squeeze, call it, squeeze the turnip. Right. Get that last little bit of moisture out of it. Because there's too much energy that goes into doing that piece of the squeezing the last little drop out of something. Again, this is all personal work. This is deep personal work that I encourage all of you to do. Think about over the holidays. If something triggers you, write it down on, okay, my stuff to work on. It might be a long list after the holidays. And ultimately then make a choice. Yeah, I want to spend more time with Auntie, whatever her name is, or I want to spend less time with Uncle, what's his name? Because I am rejuvenated with Auntie and I'm not rejuvenated from Uncle's rantings. Again, personal choice. Is this a courageous journey? You betcha. Is it worthwhile? I can tell you categorically 100% yes, yes, yes. When I first started the journey going into self-consciousness and self-awareness, I prayed to my God, just let me go back to being oblivious, please. This is just too freaking hard. I probably went through that phase for 3 or 4 years. Being on this side of it, whew, hallelujah. I love my life. I love my consciousness. I love my family. I love my parents. I love my grandparents. I love my forefathers for everything that they did so that I could be here. Hip, hip, hooray, hallelujah. All right. We've got about, we don't have any minutes left. Well, that went by quick. I want to say God bless all of you. Be safe.
Thank you. Same to you. Wish you the
Namaste.
same. Thank you.
See you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Namaste.